to the show, February 21st, 2025.
What a day.
Why is it a day?
Well, uh, I don't know, to be honest. It just feels like something's gonna happen today.
Does it?
It's got that frisson in the air, that little crackle of today something's gonna happen.
Oh, I like it. Is something good going to happen or something bad?
I feel something good. Did you read about
Okay.
Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio and Dwayne The Rock Johnson and Emily Blunt all teaming up on a Hawaiian mob boss crime thriller?
No, I didn't. Big news, huh?
That's big news, I think. Martin Scorsese to direct. Yeah, it's Goodfellas being billed as the Goodfellas meets The Departed, set in
I'm
Hawaii,
in.
with a mob boss coming up in the 70s. Who could it
I'm
be?
in. No idea, but I feel like Scorsese gets better and better with time. Or like each film gets better and better.
I do too, except for The Irishman.
I loved The Irishman.
I gotta watch it again. I feel I
Yeah,
was
the
bored.
first time through, I was a little bit bored. I rewatched it within the last year and thought it was excellent. I know you didn't love Flowers of the Killer Moon, but I thought that was the
Yeah,
greatest.
I was bored out of my mind. Maybe late stage Scorsese. I need to stop watching short form stuff and stretch my memory, stretch my attention span.
That's probably what it is. Clint Eastwood, on the other hand, gets worse and worse. I watched Juror number two recently.
I did
Not
too.
good.
It's an objectively terrible movie. The tension
Totally.
in it is awful. Like nothing happens. There's no stakes, even though it was a terrible film.
It was the equivalent of like an after school special that I
Yeah,
watched in the 90s.
yeah. It was teaching some sort of lesson.
Yeah. Did you see Cry Macho a couple of years ago?
No,
Terrible, dude. Like,
worse,
honestly,
worse than juror
well,
number.
what was worse about it was Clint Eastwood was trying to still play his badass, dirty, hairy self, but
Yeah,
he's 90 years old.
yeah.
And he gets to a point where he needs to like ride a horse. And they show him walking to the horse, and he could barely walk to the horse. Then it cuts to a stunt double who's riding the horse, supposed to be him. But I'm like, I could see that he could barely walk to the horse. There's
Yeah.
no chance he's galloping in this next scene. And the name itself, Cry Macho, I thought was a stupid name. Come to find out, as they discuss in the film, the whole premise of the film was about macho men learning how to cry.
Oh
So it's like
no.
Clint Eastwood, who played a macho man for 40 or 50 years of his life, now later in life is having this epiphany that it's okay for macho men to cry. And that's what he's trying to showcase through this film. And then he names it right on the nose, Cry
Right on the
Macho.
nose.
It was like, I like couldn't believe as the film was unfolding, could not believe somebody let him make this.
Man, well, people should take the movie making keys away from old Clint Eastwood, but thankfully, Marty Scorsese still has them firm in his mob movie making hand.
Yeah, I think he's still going from strength to strength. But this is a show not about filmmaking. We can save that for the Noble Rot. This is the grit. This is about surfing, and natural selection is the headline story of the week.
Boom, 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 boom. How much Natural Selection did you watch, David Lee Scales? Let's be honest. Let's unpack Natural Selection honestly and openly.
Every minute until the final wave was written, the final wave being after the buzzer, which was phenomenal way to end the event. But before we get into it, I had a thought going into this or going into the viewing of it. I was like, you know what? I've been trying to hype this with Chaz, who has insider info, presumably. But every time we try to hype this in the weeks leading up, he's
Geek.
dodging questions, claiming he doesn't know anything. And then I realized he's not acting. He actually doesn't know anything. So, did your wife intentionally embargo you from any and all natural selection information out of fear of what might end up on Beach Grit?
No, I embargoed myself. I actually did know a lot. I knew everything. When it comes to these matters, I feel way better safe than sorry, right? In terms of, I don't know, a little insider view or some gossip about this contest. when all these people are working really, really, really hard on it, it felt not my place. So I took myself out entirely. And if there was going to be any, I don't know, scoop or any something that was found out, it wasn't going to be for me. So I kept my mouth shut.
Good move.
Yeah.
Solid move. I was like, man, it would have been hilarious if your wife was just like, you know what? Keep him. Anytime I'm on a phone call, I'm going in the other room just so this doesn't get leaked.
Yeah, no. I mean, the thing with it too is that, what really is there to leak? Like, I think the product you saw what it was, a version of that. There was different versions of that discussed over the past, I don't know, since they decided to, or since the surf kind of got the green light. But it was always with Martin Daly. It was, I think, early or always from the inception going to be Micronesia. And then there was kind of formatting changes, and I would weigh in from time to time and give my opinion, but there was also a lot of cooks in that kitchen, and nothing's
Yeah.
worse when a kitchen is full of cooks to volunteer to be another cook. Hey guys, guess what? I have the really good idea here. But so yeah, I would offer my opinion when asked, but I would never offer it without being asked.
And the cooks that were already in the kitchen are the greats.
Sure,
So
it's great. I
there's
mean,
not a lot that you're going to add, like Gerlach,
Gerlach,
Barton
yeah.
Lynch. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would weigh in on that's where I would generally throw my weight around is when there was some not great names floated to be part of it, and I yeah yelled and made a fuss about that. And then when Barton Lynch and Gurr and these guys, Travis Foray was involved. When these guys' names come up, then I would stand and cheer and say, "Yes, these are the cooks that should be in this kitchen."
So I watched all of it. Did you watch all of it?
I did. I watched not all of it. I watched 90% of day one, and then went surfing during day two. So caught like the back half. Funny enough,
Okay.
ran into Laura Bodmer, who does publicity. She is absolutely amazing. But ran into her surfing as or just getting out of the water mid day two. She had done her work. Going to get.
So she does publicity for the event itself, and you were both surfing instead of
Yeah.
watching it.
Yes.
Couple of thoughts. I thought it was, first of all, a huge success.
Yeah.
I thought, especially day one. So day one, the waves were better. It was thrilling to watch. The waves were consequential. The waves were, it was, crazy critical too, but super, super long. So it was just a really challenging seeing people kind of the world class surfers level up to a world class wave and being challenged in that way was what we often don't get to see in normal surf competitions. So I thought that was a huge success. Day number two was a lot more rippable and less consequential. So that provided a little less thrill. But coming off of day one, my initial thought was like, wow, this is kind of a turning point for competitive surfing. This is the way that it should be operated. And then I sat on it for a couple of days and I realized we've had examples of this before. The OP boat trip or whatever it was, like in 2000. In the mid 90s, there was the Billabong Challenge at Naarlu in Western Australia. There's been a couple of, Red Bull's done a number of events that were like this that were really successful. But the weird thing is with those is they don't last. Like they
Yeah.
do it once or twice and it's not an ongoing thing. And then it certainly never becomes a tour. So my concern with this, and I don't know if you have insights with this, is just that it doesn't pencil out.
I don't think it does yet, right? Like, I think these are very expensive to do, these types of things, especially where they're doing it, right? Like, there is no easy way to film, high quality stuff with all those people, with all the moving parts in a place as remote as, quote, Micronesia. Uh, but yeah, so I mean, but I think I think everybody's invested in seeing this work. Michael Schwab is behind it. And so he's, helping. And so I think, yeah, I think everybody's going to reevaluate after this. There'll be a big postmortem. I think there already is some early postmortems and what went right, what went wrong, how can we fix it? all of the things you would hope would happen after an event. I don't think anybody thought it was perfect.
Do you have any idea how much tolerance for pain Michael Schwab has in relation to this? Is he willing to see it out for 5 years and 10 events? Or
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, he's been involved and invested in surfing for the last, I don't know, many, or, I don't know exactly, but at least the last, like, let's say 5, 6 years, maybe more than that, so it's not like he's new into this. I think it's probably even more than that he's been invested in surfing. But, he was behind the trilogy movie. There like he has investments in surfing ongoing. So I don't think he's coming in from the outside and is going to get quickly scared. I think he knew exactly what he was getting into with this, knows the cost, knows the return is not there, but with hope, might be. And I mean, what I was thinking yesterday, I was watching, after natural selection and all that. Did you watch U.S. versus Canada hockey game?
no, I saw highlights of the fight that took the three fights in the first 9 seconds, but I didn't watch the game.
Yeah, so I'm not a hockey watcher, right? I never would sit down and watch hockey. Not that I dislike it, I just don't. I was waiting for Thursday for that game because I had caught uh, just scrolling through the channels. I was making dinner or something and just had that other hockey game on, the one that there was all the fights, and thought this is epic. And so, sought it out. So I was thinking last night after the whole natural selection surf thing, they really do. So natural selection is now, they have their snowboarding, they have their mountain biking, and they have their surfing. And I feel that this has been the missing element in extreme sport programming is you can never get one group to tune into another group's thing, right? The surfers who snowboard will watch snowboarding, but surfers writ large, if you're not snowboarding, will not watch a snowboarding event. Same with mountain biking, right? Nobody's going to watch a mountain biking event. But I feel the community here and the concept is tight enough where it's, what you bang on about always, man, woman versus nature. And that's the through line for the snow, the surf, and the mountain bike. And so I feel that's a narrative that all of a sudden, if you could start getting these people to watch each other's stuff because they're invested in the man, woman versus nature, that's your foundation, and that's the foundation for all of them. I can be interested in that. So all of a sudden, I might be interested in I want to be interested in mountain biking now. I want to know some details. I want to see that stuff, right? I already love the
Yeah.
snowboarding one, but I feel there could be a real win there with natural selection of small communities coming together and actually forming a community that now there's enough eyeballs on any of this stuff to make sense.
There's like a critical mass that can take place with the multiple communities, but not no individual one is big enough to make it all work.
Exactly, which, the World Surf League has tried and proven, through its inception of there's just, I mean, I feel the World Surf League, aside from being stupid and going to dumb places like Abu Dhabi and generally, whatever, they put on a really good product, right? The World Surf League puts on a world-class sporting product, on location, epic camera angles, all the stuff. And they still can't make that thing profitable. Like, there's just not
Right.
enough surfers who care about pro surfing to watch. But again, I think the bigger narrative of man, woman versus nature, now you can get a lot of different kind of enthusiasts to watch. You can get people who just like watching Nature Channel, for pity's sake.
Yeah, I was speaking of how small the surf community is. I was shocked how low the streaming numbers were in real time.
Yeah.
On day one, I think I saw it get up to 10 plus thousand. On day two, I don't think I saw it clock over 5,000 at any given point. And I'm sure now those streams are sitting at multiples of that. With only less than a week being online, but still in real time, I was shocked because I thought they did a great job in the pre or the marketing leading up to the event. So I was anticipating it. I guess there's not that many surfers in the end.
Yeah, and I think also though that you were a unique class. You were interested, and so you were getting. They didn't. I don't think they spent one dime on marketing. Red Bull didn't spend a dime on marketing. I don't think one penny was spent on marketing. This was all basically word of mouth,
Yeah.
and they knew that, right? They chose to spend their money. It wasn't like a shock. They chose to spend their money differently. But I think with And who knows, next time maybe they do this big old marketing push. But I feel this one was truly beta. And the fact that we got to watch it was a real treat to watch something kind of coming to life, right? Not fully formed, but let's bring this into the world and see how it goes.
It's not a big shock, but I thought one of the big winners was the judging format.
Hmm.
The judging format, eliminating numerical scores and just assessing the situation or the session and then deeming a winner. I don't think it'd be a shock that we would think. I mean, that seems like a logical thing to do. So it was a smart thing for them to do, and it's great to see it actually come to fruition. It's something that we've talked about a lot in the past. So I was glad to see that, and I think it worked well. There wasn't a heat that I thought was incorrectly or a winner was incorrectly chosen.
No,
So
because
more of that, and I think
yeah, between
good.
Pam Burridge, what are you or I going to see that's different or better than what Pam Burridge and Gurr and who was the other judge? Oh, and what's his name?
Ian Crane.
Ian Crane. Yeah, like
Well,
they know exactly who the best surfer in any given moment is, and
no, but
got it right every single time.
I'll tell you what we would have saw that they wouldn't see is just multiple camera angles and replays in real time, or replays on demand. Because they're on a boat and they're sitting in the channel, so they only have that one angle. And I knew they do have replays on the boat, but I think that's probably not from all the camera angles. Like, how are they going to get a drone replay immediately like we do? So I was concerned that from that one angle, things might look, different than when you see all three angles like we're seeing. But they did get it right ultimately in the end. And so that's really all that matters. The other thing that I thought was interesting was, or the other question I have for you is, I was worried about the idea of it not running live. I thought that it was going to run live. And then once we saw in January that the event had taken place, there was a little bit of a surprise for me and some of the community of, oh, this isn't going to be live. That takes some of the sting away. Then watching the rollout, I'm curious how you feel about the rollout itself. Obviously, for listeners maybe who didn't see it, the event took place over 2 days, but it was edited and condensed down into a 3 hour package on day one, and I feel maybe a 2 hour package for
I
day
think it was
two.
I think it was a
So
little over two.
okay, so 60-minute heats. They wouldn't cut out. It wasn't like they just showed the highlight waves. They actually did a good job of showing other waves that rolled through, some of the context building to help fully appreciate the 60-minute heat. So a 60-minute heat got edited down to about 20 minutes, let's say. So I thought that was all effective in the storytelling of how the narrative arc played out over the course of the event. But did it lose some of its sting by not being live and being, live to tape essentially?
I think that's what one of the things that's going to be discussed a lot, right? I think everybody's initial impression is always, I feel ripped off. I want to see this live. The fact that it's not live and that I know that it's not live takes something out of it for me, right? I feel that's everybody's initial reaction. Uh, and that's, generally my initial reaction too. But as I found myself watching it, and the more I watched, the less I cared, right? Because it was still all new to me. It was new to the people in the booth. I think the buildup of this, we are going to run this day, and it's going to be, you're going to see this in real time. I mean, there's obviously live sport is the dominant, crushing thing that, the unsinkable part of media because people like live. And I think there's just no way to ever get away with from that. But it didn't, me personally, it didn't bother as much as I watched. And I noticed in the comments too, especially Beach Grit comments, I had the live chat on. People seemed pissed about it at the start, and then less pissed as it went on as well. People started just engaging with what it was, as opposed to wanting it to be something else.
Yeah, I think that they could double or even triple their audience if they figured out a way to do it live. I think what they will amass in downloads, let's say over the course of a month, they could have gotten in one shot if they did it live. Because I did watch it, when it streamed, quote, live, but I also had the sense that if I miss it, no big deal. I can go back and, like, if I wanted to go surfing, let's say like you did, I can just
Yeah.
come back and push play from the beginning and watch the full event in quote real time,
That's what I did.
and have the
Windsurfing
same
and watch.
experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I agree, and I think that the weight there, right, is are we going to explore, rarely seen waves, or are we going to go to surf waves that are, definitely, quote, of consequence, end quote, but, places where we could actually go live to air.
Did you have any thoughts on the surfing or the surfers itself
I mean, I
themselves?
thought that I really like the complaint early on, right, was that it was just wind blown. Those early heats were, it was windy, gnarly ocean. But then when it cleaned up, then I thought, oh, this is a real treat to see both these guys wrangling and girls wrangling. Very difficult conditions. Like when you have, what's his dude, Harry Bryant, saying that he was scared out there. Like he spent his better part of his life slab hunting, throwing himself over gnarly ledges, and that was too gnarly for him on a couple of those where just looking over the ledge was too much. I really like that, and I feel you could sense that, but they were still pushing, and I was doubly and triply impressed, to be quite frank, with the girls. The girls were just, or the women were just sending it. I felt like had risen the whole level of competition, like where there was, it felt almost no dip between the women's heats and the men's heats.
Yeah, I thought the surfing was phenomenal, and the wave. I thought if you're going to do a quote natural or a natural selection event in the kind of vein that we've seen the snowboarding events where they put them in really really critical conditions trying to figure something out for their first time, I
Yeah.
felt like this wave did that for each of these surfers where it was as critical as anything we've seen. I liked that the tide created issues, it being low and scary. I like that the wind created issues that made
Yeah.
it difficult to navigate as opposed to just a perfect wave. So I thought the venue selection was spot on. I would have a hard time imagining they can replicate or do as well as they did with event number one. But the surfing itself, so Al Cleland Jr., obviously a huge highlight surfer. Soli Bailey is really an incredible, like the event was won by Soli Bailey and Mila Coca Brown for those who don't know, and Soli Bailey certainly deserved to win the event. Al Cleland stole some of the thunder in day one because he got to surf more. Like even though Soli made it through to the final, Al was the one who shined because that second heat that he got to surf, he just was dialed in. But Soli is like an incredibly well-rounded surfer that's come on in recent years and just blown my mind.
I mean, that's what I love about, I love a lot about natural selection of solving the problems of professional surfing. And again, I'm not here saying this is it, goodbye WSL. Now we have natural selection by any means. But I think the selection process for who's going to come, kind of based on where they knew the wave was going to be, then all of a sudden you get phenomenal performances, right? There's not like a feeder system coming up here where, oh, I guess we got to send Felipe Toledo out there. I mean, imagine Felipe Toledo out in that surf. It would have been hilarious to watch him not go, but that would have been the only thing, right? But they can custom the draw based on the wave, and now all of a sudden
Yeah.
you're having like nobody just stuffed it. Like everyone was entertaining to watch out there.
Yeah, Kylie Voss didn't get a wave in his final second heat, whatever. I think it was elimination round
Yeah.
heat. But that wasn't. We know he's known for charging, so we know the
Yeah.
reason he didn't get a wave has nothing to do with him being scared. It's a matter of trying to figure out a spot for the first time, and
Yeah.
that's part of the consequence, you know.
Which seeing how quick some of those guys, it's amazing how quickly they can figure out. I mean, they've spent their lives surfing, obviously, and a lot of those guys probably waves similar to this. But how quick they can figure out a like hairy lineup like that.
I know it's incredible. And speaking of Harry Bryant was another goofy footer in the lineup who actually was going and didn't quite figure it out. Like there was waves that he got barreled on, the level shifted, he can't transition down to the bottom road and up to the top road in the way that a regular footer could, but you could see from the drone angle that it was makeable, like
Yeah.
it maybe not. He would need more practice attempts. I'm not saying that another surfer would have even made it, but you could see that there was the pacing of the wave was such that if he had done another thing or two, he could have made it out of the thing and made it, gotten a 10-point ride. And so that's where I think natural selection reigns supreme, where Mother Nature will always win. Like, if you put the best surfers in the best waves, Mother Nature will still win. But you want to see them leveling up to Mother Nature, and that's what we saw in that event.
Yeah, totally. And, again, I'll be as excited as the next surf fan to see where this thing goes. I'll be excited to see, what locations as the post-mortems continue, where they decide to go next and who they decide to bring in all this. I think this is, I thought it was successful. I didn't think it was I didn't think it was a grand slam out of the park, but I thought it was a, solid double.
Well, the problem, day one was a grand slam. The problem was the waves are always the stars, and day two was just a letdown off of day one. If they had a similar day, I think it would have been a grand slam. Like, you can't understate how important waves are to a surf contest,
Yeah.
or you
I
can't
mean,
overstate it, I should say.
no, which I still wonder, and I don't know, zero, haven't heard one word, nor will I hear one word, but I just still wonder why if you could just stuff it into one day, right? If you could stuff an entire, excuse me, contest into a day, and, that's your day, that's your Super Bowl. It's not like we watch sporting events generally, over 2 days, but
The
for
tour,
some
the
reason,
Tour de France is one of the biggest viewed sporting events in the world, and that
of
goes for
course. I
a
mean,
week or two.
there are, or golf or tennis or whatever, for sure. But in terms of like a big game, I mean, again, and maybe it just doesn't, and maybe people won't even want that at the end. Maybe they like the anticipation and the build up and the let's see what happens tomorrow, and even the changing of conditions, right? Like we had, I don't know, redlining surf on one day, and then surf that was a lot more rippable the next day.
And I liked the rippable day too, to be honest. It just wasn't as thrilling.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, natural selection. I thought it was a huge success and executed so well on so many fronts. Like, the couple of minor critiques that we're delivering now are 2%
I
of what
mean,
I experienced. 98% of it was entertaining.
that's the thing too. Like I think everybody, the critiques are very clear when something is happening, right? It's very easy to pick out, oh, they should have done this, or they should have done that, or why didn't they do this? To bring something into creation, or to bring something into reality, from thinking about it to carrying it out. I mean, imagine the moving pieces to get that thing up and on the air, which is a Herculean lift, and they did it. And so yeah, you're right. Any criticism is great, and I think everybody will listen and learn moving forward. But yeah, just the fact they did it at all is real hats off. We chirp about wanting something like this always. They actually went and did it.
Totally. High time. And I hope that I hope it does pencil out and they figure that detail all out. A week or a couple days prior, the Abu Dhabi event wrapped up, and the only thing that we really need to discuss about that, or that I'm curious to hear your thoughts on, are Felipe Toledo running over WSL photographer Tiago Diz. For those who did not witness this, Felipe Toledo needed a 10-point ride against Kanoa Igarashi, and so he got a right, and probably wasn't going to net the 10-point ride no matter what. But on the very, very final turn, he actually literally ran over the photographer. The photographer, for whatever reason, didn't duck in time or didn't anticipate the speed that Felipe was coming at him. Felipe hit him, blew out two of the fins on his surfboard. That's how hard he hit the camera housing, thankfully, not Tiago's head. And then came up in a huff and was yelling at the photographer. The photographer was yelling back at him. And ultimately, the WSL decided they would not let Felipe resurf that wave because that turn in the end was not consequential enough to net him the 10-point ride. He wasn't going to get the 10 either way. Felipe lost the heat, and Felipe was pissed about it. Do you have thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I just think Felipe Toledo has proven himself time again to just be a shameful little boy. Uh, he is not a man of very much worth, right? I mean, the whole story there. The fact that he Like, he's a professional surfer, and that photographer was not in the way. Felipe, I felt, aimed at him and hit him on purpose, knowing that he could maybe get another go on the wave. And I'm not saying that's what he did, but how many cameras has Felipe dodged in his life as a professional surfer? It's not like, oh, now all of a sudden I'm in a lineup and there's a camera in the water. How am I supposed to deal with this? Are you kidding me? Like, so A, there's that. B, there's the reaction to getting pissed at the photographer instead of getting pissed at his stupid little self. C, there's sending his dumbass dad on the war trail again, like fighting his battles for him. Ricky Toledo getting out there, getting all pissy about WSL, blah 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 blah. Like all of you Toledo family, shut your mouths. You are a shame. You're the World Shame League, the World Family Shame League.
I
You're
didn't see
shame.
him. I didn't see his dad's stuff.
Yeah, Ricky
Um,
Ricky came right into the conversation like duh 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 on the WSL. Like shameful behavior all around. He should be like
well,
he should honestly issue a giant apology to the photographer. And I know that there's a picture of them hugging after and all that, but Felipe Toledo should go on record and say, "I was a shameful little boy. I am sorry."
so Felipe did go on record after everything shook out. Felipe did an Instagram with somebody, an Instagram video, and basically said, it's all good. He didn't apologize and he didn't say I was wrong, but he did say it's all good. It's all water under the bridge. Like Kanoa actually outsurfed me. I wasn't going to get the score on the wave, whatever. And then, of course, there's the video of him hugging the photographer. So, and then the photographer has since posted photos of Felipe kind of, you know, seemingly in an apology of his own. But number one, I think you're right, Felipe. If it was a critical barrel and there's only one line to take and you hit the
Yeah.
photographer, that's something else. This wasn't the only line to take, and Felipe also knew he didn't get the score. So there was really no point in risking the photographer's life in that moment to try to get half of an additional point. But all that being said, I still feel like the WSL is almost obligated to let him resurf the wave in that scenario. I don't agree with the way that they judge or the way that they run the events or anything, but in the criteria and the way that they've done everything, in the structure that they've created, it seems only fair to let him surf another wave in that scenario. So
I
I thought Felipe was wrong, and then I also thought the WSL was wrong for the way
I
that they
just
managed it.
I just think it's a lousy precedent though. Like, these guys again are professionals. You're exact like, if this would have happened, you're right. If this would have happened in the ocean, if the photographer had gotten himself in the only, in the way of the barrel, and there's no photographers there in those situations. But this photographer was ostensibly in the channel, as far as there is a channel at that Abu Dhabi wave. Felipe went out of his way, I feel, to whack him. And I feel it sets a bad precedent, right? All of a sudden, if you're in a pool and you need a score and you feel like you're not getting on that wave, go take out a cameraman and get to surf it again.
Yeah, I didn't even consider that angle. I think the unfortunate thing for Felipe is just that I think he further divides his fan base. Like, he's already got critics because he doesn't charge in big waves. And then this allows those critics, us especially, just to further
Pile on.
dislike him about
Yeah.
something. Yeah, because I mean, ultimately, if he would have done that and then gotten up and immediately apologized, or at the bare minimum checked on the photographer just to be like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" Then I would have thought, that's a human response.
Oh,
But
for
him
sure.
getting up and immediately like lambasting the guy for getting in the way, I thought was not cool.
Are you kidding me? And I mean, and it could have been super serious too, right? Like you said already that he hit the camera housing, not the dude's head. But he could have very, very easily hit his head. I mean, you don't know what, the guy could have like protected the camera and offered a shoulder and just got like absolutely worked, right?
Yeah.
Felipe didn't know that necessarily, and like to put somebody else in that much danger off something stupid that you could have avoided, and then to have the audacity to get mad at him. Again, I just feel it shows a real lack of character that Felipe Toledo continues to show time and time again. Just a real lack of character, which I think this comes from, I not charging and never accepting responsibility for that. Like, I feel the Toledo camp, his dad included, have made a soft sponge boy who can't accept responsibility and thus has no character. There's no backbone. There's nothing there in Felipe Toledo.
Another incredibly dangerous moment. I don't know if you caught this, but during natural selection, after Soli Bailey won, he and Al Cleland are drinking beers off the boat, and somebody throws Soli Bailey a beer. Did you see that throw?
No. Did it whack him in the head?
No, he thankfully caught it, but the throw was like a fastball straight at his head. Soli Bailey's sitting on his board, like you do, and the thing comes at him, and so like if you're going to catch a ball, you can kind of get your foundation settled
Yeah.
and you can catch some of the resistance. Soli Bailey, the thing came square at his nose. Thankfully, he caught it, but it like knocked him back into the water and he almost fell off his board backwards. And I was like, holy cow, somebody rifled that thing at him. And number two, Soli Bailey's got an amazing grab, because he
Man,
saved his own life right there.
I did not see that. I'm gonna have to go back and rewind and find that moment.
I got to find the clip. It'll go viral. If I post it on Instagram, people will love it. And then the other thing that I neglected to mention was the skis come into the lineup. As soon as he wins, the skis come into the lineup and collect he and Al Cleland. And even my thought there was like, dude, what if a set's like you guys aren't even paying attention? You're all looking at the surfers you're essentially looking at the land. And if a set comes, you guys are going to get cleaned up. Like this seems like a bad position to pick up the surfers in, have them clear the lineup and pick them up from the channel or whatever. Well, thankfully, Soli Bailey does see that a wave's coming, jumps off the ski, gets three paddles over into the wave, and then gets a triple barrel all the way to the inside. Arguably would have been one of the best waves of the heat if the heat was still running.
I
And that was incredible.
I gotta go see that too. See, there's stuff. So, dear listener, if you haven't watched yet, there's reasons to go watch Natural Selection.
I mean, it was incredible. Like the fact that he jumped off the ski to catch a wave was already like cool. That was already like good on you for having enough situational awareness to realize there's a set wave on the horizon. But when he takes off, you're realizing, oh, it's actually a good wave. And then he pulls into the barrel and you're like, this is going to be sick. If he gets barreled after his heat, this is going to be sick. Makes it, pulls into a second one. You're like, oh my God, this is actually like a really good wave. Comes out, pulls into a third one, and the third one starts chandeliering, and you're like, oh, he's not going to make the triple barrel. Freaking pushes through that, and you're like, oh, he's actually like his head's in the game. He's not just celebrating at this point.
You know, the only thing that could have made that better,
Tell me if he ran over a photographer at the
if
end.
you would have whacked a photographer and then screamed at the photographer, and then
Exactly.
had his father jump on and also scream.
Soli would never do that to us.
Yes,
So I know you are out of Survival League after event one. Well, guess what? My Survival League on event two, my event pick, won the event. I picked Italo. He took the W.
of course, and congratulations to you. Congratulations to Italo as well, the better Brazilian. Uh, but yeah, are you feeling strong going now into Portugal?
I'm not. I have a very cursory assessment of the event thus far. My cursory pick is Griffin Colapinto. Griffin's a former winner at this event. And
Also
I
crazy
like
curse.
that. Well, yeah, like he's coming. I think he's got to come out of the curse. He's looks in better form than I've seen him in previous years, and yet he hasn't done well in the first two events. So I feel like he's waiting to burst through that blockade, whatever that blockade is, and he's a former event winner. So I'm not committed yet, but that's my first thought.
Do you have an opinion on early tour thus far in terms of who's going to take it?
I don't, not exactly. Coming off of event number one, I thought Ethan Ewing looks like the best surfer this year. And I know he didn't win that event, but just watching his surfing at Pipe, I just thought he looks the most dialed, the most polished, the most well rounded. And he also looked good in the pool, too. So I still am pointing at Ethan Ewing probably for being in first position going into finals day at Cloudbreak. But I think that he's not the best surfer at Cloudbreak. So I could see a big upset happening at Cloudbreak.
Barring injury, it feels like this year is already finished and it is Italo Ferrer's crown to lose.
Well, he's in first place right now, so that would be a fair pick. I could see an Ethan versus Italo kind of
At
first and
Cloudbreak.
second sparring throughout. Yeah.
I don't know. It just
Um,
feels like Idolo has that Red Bull energy thing going, like, and it's working for him this year. It feels like his all his hype up and coming out of out of last year, like almost going last to first to take the title, and it feels like this year he started with the same kind of energy. How did you do a pipe again?
I don't know, but well enough to be
Yeah, I
in
think
the
I think he maybe quartered a pipe.
yeah, third place semifinal.
Yeah, exactly. So he's got a semi and a win under the belt already, going to Portugal where he'll be a favorite there. And then it just
Yeah, I think
feels
he's
like,
won Portugal too.
yeah, exactly. It feels like he can go on a run where he can have the thing, if it wasn't for the final five format, that he would have it theoretically locked up by Australia.
Well, the other conversation we had going into the year was about Felipe Toledo and just he took a year off, and so where's his headspace? And he was the two-time champ prior to that year off. So where would his headspace be coming into this? And I was questioning his headspace, thinking, that year off, it wasn't like I don't know that he did the work in that year off to really come into this season with a revamped. We need to see a new Felipe essentially. And I feel like he hasn't necessarily. And I thought he showed some real fragility at the wave pool. He just didn't look as good. I mean, him being beat by Kanoa is kind of a shocker, but he also just didn't look like his old Felipe in the wave pool. So he's currently sitting in 10th. He has two ninth place finishes, which aren't terrible, but they're not good for him.
I mean, yeah, it feels like I was looking, funny enough, at those rankings just the other day, wondering how far he had slipped after the pool, thinking on his calendar, that's got to be an event that you circle as potential win for sure, like
Yeah.
almost a gimme if you're Felipe Toledo. And so to come out of, obviously Pipeline, you're not expecting much from him, and he maybe feels he did better than he could have done there. And I don't know that it's not like there's very many consequential waves left. There's Margaret River potentially if it's big, uh, and then Cloudbreak, right? There's no other ledgy
I mean,
scary one.
he's no there. I mean, Chopu.
I
He's
mean, Choke.
won. He's won Margaret River. He's won J Bay. I mean, those aren't scary waves, but he's won a lot of those events on the rest of the tour, actually.
I mean, yeah, I guess
So
he could figure it out and get going, but it seems like the slow start doesn't maybe bode well for him, especially when there are surfers who really do seem extra in form this year and also don't have the specter of John Florence hanging over them.
yeah. Well, to answer your question, my bet, Ethan Ewing. You got Italo. Let's keep tabs on this.
Okay.
VayerWatches.com/surf splendor will save you 15%. My camera
Fancy.
is so washed out.
Look at
I
that
need to
fancy
work on my
watch right
background.
there.
Anyways, we'll save you 15% on a Veyer. They outfit all the North Shore lifeguards this year, which is pretty incredible.
Thumbs
So
up.
we've
Oh,
got
you
what's
said,
that?
oh, if you give a thumbs
Oh,
up,
yeah.
thumbs up.
That was happening on Zoom too. We're using a different recording platform, listeners. So there might be some challenges here. I'm going to try to share my screen and play some audio. Oh gosh, I'd like to record this computer screen. All right, let's skip Vayer's tools to live by. We'll do that one next week if we can
Sorry,
figure that out.
sorry to hear.
Let's do, that's all right. Let's do everybody's favorite segment, Don't Say Gay. Chaz and David, a don't say gay subject worth discussing. Eskimo Bros. Simply put, friends that have shared a sexual partner. I'm not sure where to land on this. I've had Eskimo Bros that were otherwise great friends of mine. As happens in small communities, you'll often, quote, enjoy the company of the same people, unquote. No harm, no foul. Beyond the morals of the sexual act, I suppose the real question becomes, is it a derogatory term? Is this a term or is this a part of Eskimo culture seen as everyday and commonplace with no negative connotations? I'm sure y'all will get to the bottom of this. Work, Christopher in New York. P.S. My board building brand is St. Christopher Surfcraft, mainly focusing on edge boards. Take a look if you like.
Great, Christopher. Thank you so much. And I've done research on this, and I do believe there just wondering where the term came from, right? And if I recall, it's not on the top of my head, but if I recall, there was some thing in Eskimo culture about this. Yeah, I can't even remember it enough to speak, but it was related to something that happens, right? Is it that, or
Well,
is
I
it just,
think,
or it
uh,
might have been just that the Eskimos were sitting in an igloo together, keeping warm.
yeah, no. So I think the obvious, I didn't look it up either. The obvious answer is just it's a small culture. And so, if you're 20 years old and in the dating market and there's only one other 20-year-old in the, or two other 20-year-olds in the tribe, then of course that becomes your playing
No, now
field.
that I'm now that
But
I'm now that I'm recalling, I'm thinking it had nothing to do with anything sexual. It's that two Eskimos go warm up in one igloo. Like they're sitting in an igloo together. Two Eskimo brothers hanging out in an igloo, keeping warm.
well then well, how did people appropriate, or why would we use that term in a sexual connotation then?
Yeah, I don't know because there's two bros sitting in one igloo.
Okay,
Being
see,
bros.
I'm going back to what I think makes the most sense, which is small communities end up, this happens. You're good buddies with this guy over here, and there's only one 20-year-old girl to date, and you're both 20. And so, of course, that would end up happening and you become Eskimo bros. But the
You
question is it offensive or not? To use this term in mainstream culture, is it denigrating the Eskimo culture?
I think yes, probably. On one hand, because it's what else do we know about Eskimo culture, right? It's not like we're all have a general kind of base platform knowledge of Eskimo culture, so we can use these kinds of, we could talk about it in an elevated way. But that's A. B, I think it's also this is one of those ones that's really in the Don't Say Gay segment, I feel a lot of it is about elevating human interaction, elevating speech, elevating culture, elevating ourselves, right?
Yes.
Don't you? And this is
Yes.
one of those topics that I feel if you're going to bring it up, you're devolving, right? It's not polite talk.
It's funny.
It
It's a
is.
really it's not polite talk, and of course it's not polite talk. You're not going to bring it up at a dinner party in mixed company. But it's it's a it's an occurrence that happens in real life, let's say,
Yeah.
where two buddies have slept with the same girl, and there's no other appropriate term. I mean, it's something that you should laugh about probably, and it's a very funny term for some reason, and there's no other way. Again, we'd have to come up with a different phrase to replace this one with, and I don't know that there's any as funny as that. And I also don't think that the Eskimos are
Care.
offended. I think the Eskimos might actually be a little bit honored to have a
Yeah.
place in mainstream culture.
Okay. I go with you. I go with you. I say we keep it. Because you're exactly right. I mean, part of we can't just erase. We have to erase and replace in the don't say
Yeah.
gay, right? You can't just take something away. And I have no idea what we could replace with. And also, I agree with you that that is not offensive. Or an Eskimo likely, we'll have to go find one and ask, are you offended? But it'd be hard to think that there would
The
be offense.
yeah, the only offense I could imagine would be like they do feel I don't know what, underprivileged in their dating access. It's like, oh, this is one thing that actually does plague our society. We don't have access to a wide range of dating options, and
Yeah,
then
and
there's
you're making fun of
probably, yeah, exactly.
you and
Like,
your
this
you
is the
and your
one thing that
giant
actually,
pool of possibility is have honed in on our limited resource and are just using it as a frat boy joke.
that's the problem, because I think that there's also like probably genetic medical issues that come up with having a limited dating pool. You know what I mean?
But
The
I'm gonna
Go
hold
ahead.
though that it has nothing to do with sexual relationships in Eskimo culture. We're gonna
Okay.
like the best part about Don't Say Gay is the segment. There is no we are not allowed to research in real time. This all has to be what we think based on a hodgepodge sewing together of various informations bouncing around in our brains.
Which simultaneously actually reveals your and my own cultural biases in real time and life experiences, probably.
Yeah.
I I'm not getting rid of Eskimo Brother. I think Eskimo Brother's funny. Until an Eskimo writes in and tells us it was offensive, I'm keeping it. I think it's funny. I think it's also such a rarity. Like, I don't know of any Eskimo Brother that I've ever had. I don't think I've ever had one, you know? Like, and so it becomes this kind of just folklore thing where it doesn't really happen that often, but it's funny to
It's
joke.
funny. I mean, it's a funny Eskimo bro is a it sounds funny. I will give it that.
Yeah.
It rolls off the tongue
Yeah.
in a funny way.
And among the things, like you said, it's not polite. It's a little bit crass. It's nowhere near as crass as balls deep from
Yeah,
weeks ago. You
so
know what I
true.
mean? Like it's only a
Wow.
little bit crass.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So,
Keeping it.
all right, good. We're
I
keeping
heard
it.
I heard another one too. We don't have to discuss, but we should put it into the on the shelf for future discussion. Fruit booter,
For snowboarding,
rollerblading.
rollerblading. That's what it was.
Yeah,
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's been a long time that since I've heard that one.
yeah,
I guess rollerblading hasn't been in my awareness for a long time. But yeah, we will put that on the shelf. I've got a bunch on the shelf as
yeah.
well. They come in pretty hot and heavy each week, and I kind of just let the most salacious ones go to the top, and then we'll get to the other ones later. But yeah, we'll add fruit booter. Okay, well, I know we're on a little bit of a time crunch today, so let's go to
Unfortunately.
commercial break, and we will be back with Barrel or Not. FanDuel.com/surf. When the games tip off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's number one sports book. Because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting and the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So even if you miss the first few minutes of the game or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can make your picks from the first whistle until the final buzzer. Plus, you can even combine your bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. New FanDuel customers get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit fanduel.com/surf to join today. That's fanduel.com/surf for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 and older and present in select states, or 18 and older and present in DC. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. All right, Chaz, welcome back to Barrel or Nah. The first one coming in is wielding a chainsaw for dramatic effect. This was made famous by Peter Schroff a few years ago and resurrected this week by one Elon Musk. Elon Musk, the billionaire leading deep spending cuts in the U.S. federal government, took to the stage at CPAC on Thursday with an unusual prop, a chainsaw.
Okay, I got to see footage of Elon Musk here.
You haven't seen this?
No. Does he? Okay.
He's
Does
on
he?
he's on stage with a giant chainsaw, swinging it around when he entered the stage.
Does he rev it up?
Yeah,
So it's on. The chainsaw is on.
I actually, now that you are really holding me to it, I think so. I don't know
Uh,
100%.
does it look like Elon Musk has ever used a chainsaw in his entire life? The way he's
No,
swinging it?
but he no, but he did have that company that made flamethrowers, and I have seen him wielding a flamethrower, and they're about the same weight and size.
Okay, I'm gonna say this one's going to be a caveated barrel. Using a chainsaw as a metaphorical prop is a full barrel if you have ever used a chainsaw in your life. If you have not, and you're up there like swinging it around like a weirdo, then no, because Peter Schroff has skill on that chainsaw, right? It is a dance. When he's carving up those Hayden shapes or the Kelly boards or whatever board he's carving up, it's a fine dance with him and the chainsaw. Almost like performance art. I'm going to say that's the best performance art surfing has ever produced is Peter Schroff in his short shorts, his booty shorts, cutting boards with a chainsaw. Elon's swinging it around on stage. I haven't seen it yet, but if he's looking weird, no, you got to actually use the chainsaw. That's what I'm gonna say. It's a barrel if you use the chainsaw to cut. If Elon would have went and cut through a giant stack of, budget with his chainsaw, then yes, you can't just swing the air with your chainsaw.
He didn't look like a proficient chainsaw user, but I'm going full barrel on this one too. Not necessarily Elon's usage of it. I thought that was a little bit absurd, but it made me realize it's a very effective dramatic thing prop for dramatic effect. There's
Yeah,
never been anybody to swing a chainsaw where anybody in the viewing audience looked away.
yeah,
You
it's true.
look and you pay attention and you go, what is the messaging here? What are they trying to signal? This is rapt attention. And the other interesting thing about people who swing chainsaws for dramatic effect is I've never seen anybody use it. Like, it's not as if they show up and then start cutting people in half. I mean, there's been a
That's what I'm saying.
couple of
No, they
horror. I
should
mean,
use it. They should use it. Like I want the
well,
show. That's what I'm saying. Is
use it
Peter
for
Schroff,
something. I'm just saying they haven't used it to. The chainsaw represents a threat, and they're not you. I've never seen anybody actually deliver on the threat of harm for anybody other than the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or maybe Jason Voorhees in a horror film. But like in the real world, they do it as a prop and it grabs all of our attention and they win what they're trying to do.
exactly, but Peter Schroff uses it. Peter Schroff cuts those boards right up, right? That's what I'm saying. Is I want Elon to have at least a model of whatever the Capitol building that he can go and chainsaw or use your prop.
All right. Well, the problem with this specific prop is now it's a little bit trite.
Yeah,
We've seen it a couple of times. So if you are now trying to, I don't know, win a seat on the Chamber of Commerce this next election and you show up with a chainsaw, they're going to be like, already saw Elon,
seen it.
already saw Schroff. Like, yeah, maybe you should bring a weed whacker or something if you're going to.
It's
I don't know
true.
what the
It's
most
true.
effective tool would be.
It's true. But I think you're right. You can bring a scythe. It's not
Scythe,
as exciting.
great.
But it's not as exciting. The
Well,
chainsaw, when it's on, especially, has that growl, like the two-stroke sound of a chainsaw is great.
never have I seen anything that struck more fear in my heart than when I was a kid and I saw a juggler juggling chainsaws.
That's scary. That's
I
scary.
was like, I was like, any other weapon, like a knife, whatever, nowhere near as scary as a chainsaw.
You just get cut. Chainsaw cuts off your arm.
Well, it was brought to life, I think, in Pulp Fiction, right? Where Bruce Willis's character is in the pawn shop going to rescue Ving
Yeah.
Rhames from the basement, from the Gimp. And he looks over and he sees a hammer and he's like, yeah, I'm going to bring this hammer. And then he sees, I don't know, oh, actually, the chainsaw gets put back. He lands on the katana,
Yeah.
the ninja sword.
But the
But he
chainsaw
does see a chainsaw at one point, and that
the
becomes an
chainsaw should
option.
have got brought.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that Quentin Tarantino is such a fan of ninja
Japanese.
movies or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, not ninja, but samurai
Yeah.
movies. Okay, moving on. Barrel or nah, tying your short strings or zipping up your zipper in public without trying to hide it.
Uh, it is so you're
This
caught
came in
out.
from a list. Yeah, this listener said there's nothing wrong inherently with it, but it looks weird because your hands are down by your wang. Example, I was at the gym and my shorts were loose. I was in the middle of the gym and I looked around, tightened it, adjusted my shorts, or because of how it just looks, it looked like I could have gone down. I could have gone down to the corner and hide something a little bit. Thankfully, nobody was looking.
So I'm gonna say if you're in public and somebody notices your zipper down, because the short string is a different thing, right? Like you don't just all of a sudden. There's nothing offensive about having your short string out. Zipper down is impolite, right? So if somebody says, "Hey, whatever, zipper's down," you better just do it real quick right there, right? it's like, oh, up you go, right? If you
Let's
notice,
presume nobody's seen it and you notice that
you
one of
notice
those
it
two things is
yourself.
done.
Yeah,
How do you address it? Do you just do it out in front of everybody, or do you turn to the side and kind of duck down?
I think you turn to the side and duck down. I think
You
you,
have to.
yeah, you don't make a big production about reaching down and pulling up. You like, yeah, you do the polite
I've
thing.
been, I've been in this scenario
We've all been.
3 dozen times in my life.
We've
Yeah.
all been.
And I've never once thought about it until this listener email came through. But absolutely every time, my just innate instinct has been to shield myself or even create a diversion. Kind of like glance over there, like I'm
Yeah.
looking at something and then do it without even looking down. So everybody's like, what's he looking at? And then I get my chance to zip up, you
I
know?
mean, again, from the don't say gay segment on, the part of the show has become the fabric of the show is to elevate culture, and I feel you elevate culture by not bringing toilet things outside of the toilet.
Good point. Okay, good. We're all on the same page here. We will try to come up with some suggestions for how you can tie your drawstring, inconspicuously.
Yes.
Final barrel or nah, self-examination, question mark. This is in response to Jamie Brisick's 90-second short film, Bucking Broncos, that was posted on Beach Grit along with an essay that he wrote. Down in the comments section, Rick Maddox said, quote, avoid daily self-examination at all costs, end quote.
Yeah. What do you think?
Barrel or not, I feel like self-examination is as part of kind of your daily protocol is probably a good thing. I think where this verges on being a problem is over-examination. And so self-loathing on the flip side of the equation has the same risk where I think it's okay to have a little bit of disdain for oneself and want betterment and that sort of thing. But if you're just self-loathing all the time, or if you're just trying to be better all the time, both of those things reflect narcissism, you know?
Exactly. I think it's worthless other than how can I be lightly better, or how can I be a better version of myself daily? That amount of self-reflection. Anything more than that should be absolutely not unless you're making art, right? Like, have you ever heard of the book My Struggle? Not Adolf Hitler's My Struggle, Mein Kampf, but Karl Ove Nosgaard's My Struggle.
No,
Karl Ove
no.
Nosgaard is, I think, Norwegian, and wrote, I think it's a 6 volume autobiography of like
Wow.
pure self, but it's art. It's epic. It's won Pulitzer Prizes. I think it's a masterpiece of self-reflection, right? And so if you're going to go that deep in self-reflection, you better be making art. If you're self-reflecting all the time and not producing anything with it, then stop self-reflecting so much. Like turn your self-reflection down to 2 and leave it there.
I'm going to assign 90 seconds a day is all you get.
Sure. Just sit there and think
That's
about think
all.
about what you did, how you did it,
It
who you are.
it's not even 90, it doesn't even have to be 90 seconds in one block. Just 90 seconds throughout the course of the day. Like you get out of the car and you have trash in the door little compartment and you walk past it and that's happened for a week now and that same trash has been there. And there's a 2-second thing where you're just like, you know what? Why am I being such an idiot? I need to just grab that trash and take it into the trash can with
Yeah,
me.
what's my
Stop
deal?
doing that.
What's
That's a
my
two
lazy?
second thing.
Yeah, I'm a
Right.
lazy man.
And then later in the day, you forgot to meal plan, you make a bad dietary decision, and you're going to go, I need to put a little bit more thought into whatever so I don't pick up fast food for lunch. That's
Yeah.
another 2 seconds here and there. But that's the extent of it. Once it becomes like I'm designing meal plans and booking them out a week in advance and I've got all the calories counted and go my macros and whatever, like that is now narcissistic.
And then even going meta with it, right? Of thinking about you thinking about meal planning, thinking about yourself thinking about yourself, where I feel that's where self-reflection too much can go. Like use it to
Well,
be better in the moment unless you're making art and then reflect
well,
away.
down that line becomes I watch Joe Rogan every day and I learn how to maximize my efficiency in my life. Then I listen to Tim Ferriss and then I hit the ice bath and then I do that. And it's
Yeah,
all about
you.
me trying to get a 6 pack and glowing skin so that I can, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
So steer clear, but 90 seconds a day is your
Yep.
allotment.
You get a surf ranch barrel of a little micro barrel.
Exactly. Okay, Chaz, I know you got to go. Thanks for tuning in on The Grit this week. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you for having me as always. And see you on Noble Rock on
Okay.
Monday.
Keep work.
See you Monday.